Hello, it is officially the start of the summer season, and it is a very bright and sunny day outside in London today. And I've come up with a pile of 12 novels that I want to read over the summer months. So maybe you'll want to read some of them alongside me, or they'll give you some inspiration. Or if you've read any of these books and would recommend them, please let me know about that in the comments below, because they're a mixture of some new books and some older books. Some of these books, the subject matter is set during summertime, so feels very appropriate, or maybe just the cover has a very summery feel to it, or they're just books that I've been meaning to get to and wanting to get to. And obviously you can read these books at any time of the year, but I think it is nice to read some books that are within the season that you're living through, because it kind of adds to the reading experience and adds to the pleasure of reading these books. And these aren't traditional beach time reads. I don't read books often quite like that, but they a lot of them are quite fun or really interesting, and because I like my books to be emotionally engaging as well as stimulating my mind and having some real thought behind them as well. So I'm going to go through and talk about each of these 12 books and why I'm interested in reading them. First is quite a recent novel called The Seaplane on Final Approach by Rebecca Aukeyser, and this is a novel about a summer job. A young woman takes a summer job in a place you wouldn't traditionally think of as a summer location, but on a remote island in Alaska. During the summertime, she works as a baker at a lodge there, and she discovers when she gets there that this lodge, the business is kind of failing, and the couple who run it are having lots of arguments, and so she kind of gets involved with all of that as well as her own personal issues, but it's about that whole experience of like a summertime job in a location very different from where you normally live. Next is a novel that I meant to read when it came out last year, but it's just been published in paperback, in this beautiful paperback edition, which it does have quite a summery feel to it. It's Burntcoat by Sarah Hall, and it's about an older woman who's a sculptor, a famous sculptor, and she realizes she's getting towards the end of her life, so she's sort of sifting through her memories and experience and what she wants to leave behind, and also recalling this affair she had with a foreign man who came to stay with her very briefly, and all about that experience which occurred during lockdown here in Britain. So it's covering this like recent experience in time. The Slowworm's Song by Andrew Miller, and this is a novel about a man who's recalling a summertime in the past, in 1982, when he was involved in a skirmish during the Troubles in Ireland, and he is made to recall this because he's called to a tribunal that is investigating what occurred during this time. But it's also about how he's communicating with his daughter, and he's recently reconnected with, and describing what his life was like during this time and why he made the decisions that he did. The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien, and this is an older novel which was first published in the 1960s, and it's seen as kind of a seminal Irish novel because it's a coming-of-age story about two young women that are enjoying liquor and luxury and having fun and kind of discovering themselves over a period of time. And so I've always wanted to read this. It's one of her most famous books. I've read a couple of novels by her before, but want to finally get to this. And if I really love it, I might be very ambitious, because I also have this omnibus edition because she made this story and these characters into a trilogy. And so yeah, the next two books in this series as well, I might get to. I'd also really like to read some mystery, and I know that's more of like an autumnal type thing, but I think it'll be really fun and engaging to read Agatha Christie's very first published novel called The Mysterious Affair at Styles. and this takes place at a country house which is run by an older wealthy woman, and a number of people come to visit this house, but then this older woman is found poisoned, and someone who is staying nearby is a man named Poirot, and this is the introduction of the famous detective Poirot, who comes to investigate this story and take accounts of everyone that was staying there and piece together the mystery of what happened. So I think this will be a really fun read. Another mystery novel that I want to read is The Terracotta Dog by Italian author Andrea Camillari, who died a couple of years ago, but was famous for this series of mysteries featuring Inspector Montalbano. And in this story, the inspector investigates this very old case that he comes upon, where in a cave two skeletons that are intertwined are discovered, and they are being watched over by this terracotta dog. So he tries to figure out the story of what happened to this couple, but is also investigating some local mysteries, and through that some of the history of Sicily and what happened in Sicily during World War II, but also about current issues to do with the mafia in Sicily. So yeah, it sounds like a really engaging story. I have read one book by this author before outside of this mystery series called The Revolution of the Moon, which was a really engaging historical novel. But yeah, I've been wanting to read some books from this series as well. Islanders by Cathy Thomas, and you can't get a more summery cover than this, can you? And this is set on the island of Guernsey and follows a number of characters that live on the island and their interactions with each other over a 20-year period. And not only the cover is very summery, but look at the inside. The inside pages of this are so beautiful, depicting the island of Guernsey. So yeah, I think this will be a really engaging novel. The Swimmers by Julia Otsuka, another very summery cover in that it depicts a pool, although the subject matter is quite serious and sobering. So it's about a woman named Alice that swims with a local swimming group at a pool, and one day a crack forms on the bottom of this pool, but also there are fissures in her memory as she's losing accounts of her past and also her identity. It's quite a slender novel, but I've heard it's quite powerful. Another novel with a bright cover is Afterlives by Abdulrazak Gurnah, but which also has very serious subject matter. So it's about a man who was taken away from his parents and his family quite early in his life and made into a soldier, and so brought into conflict. But then much later in his life, he returns to his hometown and he wants to resume his life and start his life over, but then finds himself drawn into continuing colonial conflict in Africa. So it's telling his story, and Abdulrazak Gurnah was the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature last year, and I've only read one other novel of his called By the Sea, which I thought was brilliant and so powerful, and I read it a number of years ago, but been wanting to read more of his work. Another recent novel, Teepolo Blue by James Cahill, which matches my top quite well, and this is about a man who's a professor of the arts in the 1990s, and it's about his love for art, but also how he goes on this voyage of self-discovery, exploring his sexuality and the twists and turns that occur as he's doing this. And it's meant to be such a powerful and beautiful novel, so I've been really eager to get to this. Abundance by Jakob Guanzon, and this is a story of a father father and son who are really struggling to get by. They're living in the father's pickup truck, and he has the prospect of a new job, but then there are incidents which occur which trouble their prospects, and it's following their story. It's meant to be a very intimate and emotional story of father and son that are trying to establish more stable lives for themselves. And the author Douglas Stewart says that this is an incredibly exciting new voice. And finally, there's a novel I've been meaning to get to for quite some time, and it has a very bright summery cover, so it feels like the right occasion. And it is The First Woman by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. And this is a novel about a young girl's coming-of-age story, growing up around some very strong-willed women, but she wants a sort of different life for herself. So it's about how drawing upon the power of their influence, but also trying to establish her own voice in a village in Uganda. And I have read this author's novel Chintu before, which I thought was really moving and powerful, but quite a sort of scattered story. And I think this is quite a much more concentrated story, just looking at this character's coming of age story. So really looking forward to finally reading this. So those are all the books that I'm hoping to read over the summer months. Let me know, like I said, if you want to follow along and read any of these books as well, or if you've already read any of these books and would recommend them to me, please let me know about that in the comments below. But I hope you have a lovely summer, sitting inside somewhere cool or in a shaded spot with a cool glass of iced tea and getting to some good reading. But I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.